and you are tuned into the Second Opinion Dentist -101 featuring Dr. Bo Gram, DDS, meaning I'm a dentist, to the people that are not English and American. As you know, if you have seen some of my videos, I'm not too much of a proponent for the healthcare system we experience today. Neither the public nor the private. They all seem to be run on agendas and guidelines rather than actually being run on common sense, or for that matter, common sense for doctors. The reason I do this is, among other things, my own history within the medical healthcare system, my own employment in a private and public sector as a dentist, and my own having a clinic actually, way back. So I'm trying to make a little bit of an influence here in the world, so that people can understand that they don't need to be doctors and experts in any way. They can use their common sense and their intuition, and if that doesn't suffice, then they can use a second opinion, whatever they need. Second opinion dentist, doctor, chimney sweeper, whatever. And that can help them. And then from that point on, they can make their own decision, because it will become clear. If you get involved in too many details that the experts like to do, then you probably get lost unless you are an expert yourself. So I want you to share this so that we can get this out and people can understand that they actually have an opportunity to take care of themselves and as far as possible avoid needing any kind of healthcare actually. Or if you want to be the positive one, you can save the national healthcare systems by not going to the doctor. Much like you can save the police by just going to jail by yourself. Which is of course a joke. So, the reason one of the biggest issues is this diabetes 2 for me and for everybody else that has a human body. And we have been recommended the wrong kind of diet, I believe, for the last 50 years. And that has made us very sick. And if you look at these graphs that I will present to you, you can see that what is actually going wrong. So the first graph I show here is death by cause in the world, 1990 to 2019. At the bottom you see a yellow phase, and that would be a death from injuries. That's pretty stable. Then you see non-communicable diseases, and that's the blue one. And that means diseases that are not introduced by infection or by poisoning. The top one is communicable diseases, and that would be diseases that come from somebody else, infection, or something else that you have eaten or been drinking. That's what they mean by nutritional disease, I suppose, because I would say that a lot of non-communicable diseases are actually nutritional diseases, in as much as you are eating the wrong kind of food. So it's very apparent that the blue section is much larger, and that would be diseases like heart disease and stroke and dementia and all these things that are not infected, that we sort of seem to believe that will come no matter what you do. But I would claim that some of the communicable diseases, meaning infection, as we have just seen in this COVID era, is that if you notice, you just have to do COVID, you can take any kind of seasonal flu, and you will notice that the people that die are the people that also belong in the non-communicable disease area. Meaning that they don't have a good resistance, they don't have a good immune system. And so I would actually claim that if you talk in diet and cause, root cause, I believe that the non-communicable diseases or results of a bad diet would be much larger. The blue area would be much larger. But this is over 30 years. You've seen it's kind of clear that it's always been the non-communicable diseases, that have taken up the biggest space, but it's growing actually, and the communicable diseases, such as infections, is going down. Another thing I would like to show is this graph here that my man Jimmy will put up on the screen for you. You see that let's go from the top. That is 2 hours post-load glucose. That means you have eaten some glucose and your blood glucose goes up. But if you go to the x-axis, you'll see that the zero is minus 40, means that's 14 years before you actually get the diagnosis called diabetes. So nothing much happens the first, 8 years or something like that, right? 10 years actually, almost. But it's certainly at the -6 level on the x-axis, it goes up, and then it goes really steep increase in 2 years, closer you get to a diagnosis. The green one is fasting glucose, which is one of the reasons I'm not too keen on these healthcare systems that we have today, because this is one of the major reasons for disease. And you see the green one, number 2 from the top, is pretty stable until about 2 years before you get a diagnosis. And if you go to the next one, so when you go to the doctor and they take a fasting glucose, it doesn't say a lot about your situation and what is going to predict what's going to happen in the future. The third one from the top is the purple one, and it's insulin sensitivity. That obviously goes down by age, but it is only causative, I guess you say, related to the, no, not causative, it's correlated to age, the age is not the cause. But insulin sensitivity goes down, which is not a big surprise, and the beta cell function is pretty much stable until it goes up. That produces more insulin, which happens in the beta cells, and then it goes down and you produce nothing at all if you really don't try to turn it over and turn your situation around. But using the fasted glucose, the green one, nothing happens until you get to 2 years approximately before you actually get a diagnosis that you have diabetes 2. So that's way too long. You can do something up to 1.5 decades before you actually get the diagnosis. If you had a fasting insulin, would be a better indicator of what is actually going on. And that leads me to this graph here that is now on the screen, if Jimmy can do this. And the most interesting thing here, I suppose, is the insulin production. That would be number 2 from the top. It goes up and up and up, and on the x-axis you have the years or decades. It's not really specific, but time, right? And you see insulin production goes up until it starts until it tops, and then it starts going down, and like the other curve. And you have other things that are microvascular complications. That would be the lower one, brown, I believe, so that goes up. The fasting blood glucose, nothing much happens until it suddenly starts rising. So you see why that is a bad indicator, whereas the insulin production has gone up and up and up. The insulin does its very best to remove glucose from the blood. So there will be more and more insulin, and then you end up being insulin resistant, and then after that your beta cells are influenced. So what you should ask your doctor, and to my knowledge, is that you should ask for a fasting insulin or a C-peptide blood test to indicate that you are eating the wrong thing. And so far blood glucose hasn't risen, because you produce more and more insulin. And the doctor's waiting until where actually the insulin production is going down a little bit, and then he starts pumping you up with insulin, and you will be on that chronically. Some of these doctors that I again want to put up a list, I will ask Jimmy, my main man, to put up a list of these doctors again, which is just some of them. And when you get into these videos, if you follow my advice, you will see other doctors, and you'll start the whole trip down this rabbit hole where doctors that actually have turned themselves around 180 degrees and will work for your health improvement rather than for, big pharma, for instance, or because of they are afraid of losing their jobs, because if you don't follow the guidelines, you might find yourself without a job or without your authorization, which some of these doctors have actually tried. So by all means, go and look at these doctors, and you'll get into that world of low carb or no carb and carnivore diets that will actually improve your health. And you will see that by getting your doctor to take a fasting insulin rather than this fasting glucose thing they always use. They could also use the 2-hour post-load glucose test, but that's way too complicated because you have to sit and wait. You drink a sugar solution, and they have to measure your glucose level, blood glucose, over 2 hours, and so that's way too complicated. But it would be a better thing than just fasting glucose. But I believe the best one is C-peptide or fasting insulin. This leads me to go into my history, why I have this reluctancy towards the healthcare system today. So, as I said, there's a reason I'm sitting here and trying to actually to help people to deal with experts first of all, but especially to deal with your own health. And for that, I will tell you my story. When I was in my early 40s, at least the first half of my 40s, I ended up in a personal situation that made me change my lifestyle. And what I pretty much did was not eating breakfast and maybe not having these regular meals all the time. The life regularity was kind of disrupted. And I lost 16 kilos at that time without even trying. And when I was 42, I was probably not insulin resistant at all, and the second I start fasting, which I unknowingly did, I lose weight very fast. It didn't take very long time. I found out because I wanted to go out and I put on my suit that I was actually married in, and the pants fell off. And it was like this weird to me, and that it simply looked as if it was not even my suit, and I was thinking about who has left this suit here that is so big. So that fast I lost weight, 16 kilos, that would be 35 pounds. I was not living a healthy life. I was drinking lots of beers, which was no more than normal perhaps, but I also smoked, and no more than most people that actually smoked. So I wasn't living a healthy life, or especially a healthy diet. But the fact that I was insulin sensitive made me lose weight very fast, without even noticing, without even trying. So my life continued, and the next base point would be that when I stopped smoking, then I put on weight, because I got the idea that it was, it was important to stop smoking, and so if I eat a bit of chocolate, it wouldn't be that big a deal. It was a greater health risk, I thought, to be smoking. And since I was smoking a pack a day, and at my worst 2 packs a day, it is of course a health risk. Perhaps, I don't know if it's larger or smaller than, it's faster probably than the wrong kind of diet. So I put on weight. I did actually do quite a lot of training. Nothing excessive, but more than the average, I suppose. Bicycling, running, I had a treadmill, a cross trainer, and so I used these things, but I still didn't do anything to my weight, which is what you will also find out if you try. Only if you place a distance of 20 kilometers between you and your food would it actually help. So it didn't do much for me. I did a reasonable amount of moving around without being a sports jog. So then I actually got cancer in my urine bladder, and I had that removed, and I suddenly said, well, maybe it's time to do something for your health, and maybe it's synchronicity it's called, sorry. I don't know, but I met some of these doctors on the internet, on the YouTube channels, and I started looking into this, among other things, fasting. And at this point this is probably some 3-4 years ago, I'm so far gone in my insulin resistance that it takes a long time for me. Remember when I was 40, I didn't even try to lose 16 kilos, 35 pounds, and it just fell off me without, But then I changed my diet when I stopped smoking, and that brought me to the place here. I am now doing I kind of see these videos and try to find out what to do, because looking at my father, who has been overweight my entire life, I was a bit confused about what to do. He claimed that he didn't eat very much, and that he was still not losing weight. And I was an arrogant dentist in those days, and I told him, well, in that case you have invented the eternal machine, because you can store energy without adding energy. That is impressive, and if it was true, you would actually have solved all energy problems of this world. But he claimed that he wasn't eating very much, and I've seen him several times sitting eating grapefruit and trying really to, but I say you must be doing something else, otherwise you can't be overweight. Little did I know that actually it's all about hormones, which Jason Fung, among others, has taught me. And that suddenly makes sense, because it is true that he probably didn't eat very much compared to what he was doing. And he probably was miserable all the time and rather hungry. But he didn't lose any weight, nothing noticeable. And neither have I actually. I'm not in the point I want to be, but I know that this is the right trip to take, because it's only a question of tweaking this so that you make the level of what do you say, the things you do reach the level of your insulin resistance, and mine is pretty bad. When I got operated, and that was 2018, I weighed 112 kilos. And excuse me, I'm just going to have to take a paper. When I was at my worst, in 2018, when I got operated, I weighed 112 kilos, that's 250 pounds more or less, and I am 6 foot or 182 centimeters. That actually puts me at a BMI of 34. That's not good. So I believe that the cancer comes from partly smoking, but also partly the wrong diet, and over a period of many years. So I read this and I listened to Dr. Jason Fung, and I had to say to my father, I'm sorry, that is probably true that he didn't eat a lot, but he was insulin resistant. And he was eating the wrong things again. He was eating bread, lots of bread. He has a hard time leaving the bread alone. And now he's also, I think, he doesn't want to listen, he doesn't want to change anything. He's mid-80s. So, as I say, 112 kilos, 247 pounds, a BMI of 34. And then I start fasting. The interesting thing here about fasting is what is possible today. When I was in my 30s, actually, in my early 30s, I drive to a job. I live a normal life in those days. I get up, eat my breakfast, my lunch, and I go home from work. And I was driving a distance of about 60 miles or something, and I couldn't go home. I had to go to a gasoline tank, a tank station, or what do you call it, and get a piece of chocolate, simply to get the energy and feel that I was okay. And that was in my 30s. In the same period, when I go and train with one of my friends, I always ended up with a headache. And being that we were both academics, and we didn't push up very much, actually, but we tried our best, and I always got a headache. People said to me, "You need to hydrate," and I hydrated, and it didn't really help. So, and I did that coming home from work, and then before eating dinner. So my carb storage, so my carb stores were empty, I guess, because I was getting close to my dinner, right? And I hadn't any more blood glucose, actually, more or less. I don't know, but I always got a headache. Today, 30 years later almost, I fast. I fast once a week. I fast about 48 hours, more or less. And on a daily basis, I do 1 or 2 meals a day, which means I have an eating window of 1 to 4 hours. And I do heavy lifting, at least what I call heavy. And at the age of 60, I actually once go down to my basement and train after 45 hours of fasting, and I got no headache. I never get a headache from training. And I push up about almost twice as much as I did in those days. So, and I'm not going to tell you how much, actually. So that's the history part of it. And this is also a bit the solution. I fast because I'm amazed that it's possible. I'm never tired. I never had a headache. I can even go down and train, and it takes some time getting used to it, but I have switched my metabolism from being run on carbs to being run on fat, actually. Unfortunately, I have some bad habits, and I just told you I'm not really happy with my result yet, but the good thing is this is a lifestyle change, so it's not a diet. So I just tweak it a little bit, and I look for places where I go wrong. And one of the places I believe I go wrong is I drink cream in my coffee. 36% cream. That's a brilliant thing to drink. It has 3% sugar though. And if you drink enough, I am convinced that this will actually disrupt my insulin production. And that's something I have to not do. So for me, over this period of almost 20 years, from when I was in my 40s till today, what has changed is my insulin resistance. In my 40s, in my early 40s, I lost weight without even trying. Now it's a little more difficult, and I have to tweak certain things and get to the point where I probably should eat meat only. And this is my opinion, again, like everything else I say. Eat meat only and drink water, at least when I'm fasting. And the rest of the time I should probably be eating meat as well. And I could, in that period, I don't think it would harm me so much if I drink cream in my coffee. Another thing I make a mistake is I have 2 little boys, autistic to boot, and they're not easy to argue with, and they want candy, and I sometimes fall off the wagon at the candy day, and I also eat some candy. Not nearly as much as I did if you go back a year or so, but still, if you're very insulin resistant, you should probably go teetotal, as they say. That's no cream in your coffee, no candy at all, nothing else. So that would be my solution. Eat, for me, eat meat, eat animal products. This is not a popular thing these days, but your health is not trying to be popular, it's trying to be healthy. And this way you can avoid this healthcare sector that, in my opinion, is lacking healthcare, if I have to provoke a little bit. So, this is my solution. My history has told me that when I followed the guidelines, I got fat, or I used to smoke and drink, and that was fine, I was slim. But I'm sure that if I had been examined, I would not have been healthy. If I had already then had a fasting insulin, it probably wouldn't have been good. And smoking, of course, is not good. I think everybody agrees on that. But once I found out about fasting, and it's not dangerous, and I'm not hungry, and I don't have a headache when I train, and I'm really tired, as I was before. Even if much younger, I got tired, and I had to have a shot of blood sugar to get all the way home without driving off the road. So that would be my solution. I think the main thing is that you don't eat refined products, and you don't eat what do you call that you eat natural food, right? But it all depends on where you are, how long you've been doing the wrong thing, and therefore age plays a role. But you can get a person my age, and if they had lived the way that I do now, they probably wouldn't look like me at all, and they wouldn't have the same problems. But as I said, when I go back 20 years to my 40s, I lost all this weight. I was running, I was bicycling, I was kayaking. I didn't have any problems, except I smoked and drank way too many beers. Which doesn't mean I was an alcoholic, but today I drink absolutely nothing alcohol-wise. Not because I am a born-again whatever, but simply because it doesn't interest me. Which leads me to rounding up this thing. I really recommend that you share this, and I also recommend that you take a look at these doctors and their YouTube channels, and you will start your own journey here, and you will find out where you are on the scale. If you're young, you probably don't need to do a lot. This is also why the people that train when they're young, they say, I can eat all I want. Yeah, good luck with that 30 years down the line. All the people that you see, or many people that I've seen at least, that do a lot of sports, they when they stop this, when they get older, they get a family, they pop up like, I don't know, like a balloon, right? And that is because now you can't have this diet anymore, and you're getting more and more insulin resistance because you continue your diet. There is a movie about a personal trainer from Australia some years back that did something I really admire. He found out that he had to understand his patients, and he'd go from weighing 80 kilos and being pure muscle to weighing 120 kilos, which and then go down again. And he found out that the going down process was not as easy as he thought. He had this idea that, well, why don't they just eat less? Why don't they just do this? But he found out they couldn't. And when he hit the 120 kilo mark, he of course had to eat some really unhealthy things, and that would be pizza and junk food. And he couldn't get over it again so much. So he did, but I know the thing that I don't agree with him is that he sort of makes you believe that it's all the training, and I don't think so. Diet is more important, if you ask me. So share this, like it if you do, and let's just see if we can question these experts a little bit more, either by helping each other with our expertise, so that you can have a second opinion from other experts that are not biased and are not gaining from whatever you do. And I'll see you next time. Bye for now.